Hello, Life Teen. Today, we are going to talk about anger. Words are important, and that is a great topic for a completely different series of Life Nights that maybe we'll tackle someday. But tonight, we're going to talk about the word anger. Often, when people hear the word anger, they think of other words. Words like upset, or crazy, or rage, an outburst. However, anger itself is not inherently bad or good. Anger is a natural response to a perceived injustice or a harm done to someone or something. We've all felt angry at some point. And just like happiness and sadness, this response is a morally neutral emotion. It's neither good nor bad. When you see a cartoon character get angry, what usually happens? Their faces become really red, they clench their fists, and then steam comes out of their ears. And this is all done in a way to attempt to portray the emotion anger. Our bodies also respond physically when we are angry. Our heart rate increases. Our muscles tighten, and adrenaline shoots through our bodies. This is our natural response to the emotion. And feeling this way is not a sin. In fact, there are times when we should be angry about a situation. There are many examples of times when you would be justified to feel anger. It is okay to feel angry when you see someone is being bullied. It is okay to be angry when you see someone is being mistreated or treated with less dignity because of their ethnicity or the color of their skin. It's okay to be angry when someone gossips about a friend or when a teacher does something that is simply not fair. When we encounter a situation that makes us angry, we may be conditioned to think that what we should do is stifle it. Or alternatively, we might think the best thing to do is to release it in an unhealthy way. But anger can be a force of great expression and can lead to effective change. But in order for that to happen, for that change to be good, we must learn how to evaluate our anger to make the best decision to move forward. If we haven't taken time to understand our personal experiences of anger, we might express it in unhealthy ways. Out of control anger can really take the form of losing our temper or just blind outrage. And these moments of uncontrolled anger can stem from a lot of things. They can stem from previous experiences of being wrong. They can stem from our personal biases or from our current level of stress. And although the feeling of anger itself is not a sin, our response to anger can lead to sin and very quickly spiral into hate. We don't want that. We can understand when our anger is sinful if we understand where our anger is coming from. So, if we recognize that our anger is coming from an experience where our pride has been hurt, that is not God. When anger arises out of things like jealousy, impatience, or self-righteousness, when we use our anger for our own perceived gain and not for the righteousness of God, that's not good. When we're confronted by this reality by others, we might start to feel defensive and lash out at them. This typically results in us hurting both ourselves and absolutely the other person. That's not good. Sometimes this reaction can feel justified because these outbursts make us feel good about it. And they make us feel like our actions are justified. But this is the opposite of love and is absolutely not how Jesus intended us to use our anger. You have heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I say to you, love your enemies
and pray for those who persecute you.
Jesus calls us to order our anger toward love. To do so, we have to rely on God's grace to objectively look at what makes us mad in the first place. To do this requires daily, honest reflection in order to create a change within ourselves. For example, recognizing why we yell at our siblings when they annoy us, or recognizing why we snap at our parents when they ask us to do something. You get the idea. Reflection is needed in order to know when to take action within any given situation. Our anger can easily be misplaced when a situation is simply calling for patience and understanding. So explaining what annoys you about your siblings will go so much further than yelling. Other times, Jesus does call us to an action that is known as righteous anger. And righteous anger is a display of justifiable displeasure that serves to acknowledge and correct the harm or wrongdoing of another.
Since the Passover of the Jews was near, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He found in the temple area those who sold oxen, sheep, and doves, as well as the money changers seated there. He made a whip out of cords and drove them all out of the temple area with the sheep and the oxen. And he spilled the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And to those who sold doves, he said, "Take these out of here and stop making my Father's house a marketplace."
This story from John can seem a bit confusing at first. Why would Jesus get so angry about people selling their goods? Well, without the proper context of the story, it seems like his anger is not justified. Jesus came to the temple to pray, just like all Jews did during Passover. When he got there, he found something that made him furious. People in the temple had turned his Father's house, which we all know is a place of prayer, into a marketplace. The merchants were not only trying to make money off of people who were showing up to pray, but they were taking advantage of them. And they were doing this by inflating the prices of sacrificial animals and inflating the prices of the temple tax. Jesus was angry because he wanted all people to be able to pray in his Father's house. Jesus' anger was justified, and he expressed it vehemently, but without malice or spite. Through our baptism, we share the divinity of Christ. This means that God gives us the grace to use our anger for good instead of bad. And we can exercise the same control that Christ did when he felt angry. Now, this does not mean that people need to know every time that we are angry. However, it is important that we don't repress our anger. So through prayer and reading scripture, we learn how to deal with our anger in healthy ways that can be constructive. When we first feel anger, there are a few things that we can do before we decide to take action. So depending on the circumstances, maybe it's a good idea to stop. Take a few deep breaths before you act on your anger. Go for a walk to cool down. Sometimes all you need is this pause to allow us to realize that we are a whole lot angrier than maybe we should be based on the situation. It also helps take these feelings to prayer and to journal about our feelings. But remember, this doesn't mean that we should repress our feelings. We're just taking the time to process what we feel so this can help us determine how God is calling us to act. Other times, maybe simply expressing our anger to someone that we respect and trust will help us uncover what is causing us to feel that anger. So this might be someone like a friend or a parent, a teacher or a core member. Sometimes saying why we're angry out loud helps us see what part of the feeling of our anger is righteous anger and what part of our anger is unjustified. It's important that we choose someone who's going to help us process what we're experiencing rather than someone who's going to fan the flames of our anger and push us towards gossip or rage or even hatred. That's not healthy. Other times we need to do more than just talk about our anger. Sometimes, like Jesus did in the temple, We need to take action against injustice. So when we see a situation, we see something like someone's being bullied, we should assess the situation and decide how to act. Maybe in that situation, standing up for the person would be enough. But maybe what we need to do is use our anger to act and be intentional and get to know that person who's being bullied. Maybe offer them some friendship that they need. Occasionally, the best solution in a situation like that would be to go straight to a trusted adult so they can take care of it in the correct way. Maybe we're angry about a policy at school, something that we don't think is justified. So the smart thing to do would first to go to a teacher and respectfully ask why the rule was put in place to begin with. If we still don't think the rule is justified, then we might try taking it up to the administration, discuss our concerns with them. If we feel like we're still not being heard, then maybe we challenge our peers, our fellow students, to take up the cause to again respectfully ask for a more just policy. Jesus always calls us to love first and foremost. Anger does not contradict love if it's righteous anger. It comes out of love and our desire for the good. And so we must act as Christ did, using our anger to bring about God's kingdom.